A bit of pain relief for taxpayers offered up today at the Christiana Mall. Shoppers doing everything today but thinking about filing their taxes. That is until they came across Congressman Mike Castle and the tax information outreach. This outreach held to let taxpayers know that there may be some tax credits that they should be taking advantage of, especially the new $400 per child tax credit. Joining the congressman during the lunchtime event, a representative of the Internal Revenue Service who offered some immediate tax tips to shoppers. You'd like to see a smile on your IRS representative. Well, for most of us, dealing with taxes is a once-a-year event, something we dread, something we put off, something that gives many people a little bit of indigestion. But there's one person who's actually taken a look at our tax system, and for him, it's a subject for study. Sheldon Pollack, a tax attorney at the University of Delaware professor, is here with us this evening. You've actually taken a look at our tax system, and you've written a book, but you study it very carefully. Are you a fan of it? Well, I'm highly critical of the complexity of the tax code, which is a major problem for a lot of people who are sitting down right now to fill out their tax returns. What started me to write about taxes was the complexity, the increasing complexity, where every couple of years Congress seems to be intent on rewriting the tax code. Sometimes that very rarely results in some benefits coming out of it and the tax code gets better, but most of the time when Congress attempts to change the tax code, it's probably for the worse. And I think we're seeing some of those effects this year. A lot of new complicated provisions of the tax code. However, there seems to be a little contradiction here because you're a tax attorney. Well, you got to love the complexity of it, right? I mean, that must equal business. Tax attorneys and tax accountants seem to benefit every time the tax code is changed, and obviously the great software computer makers benefit when tax code gets so complicated people have to use a computer to fill it out. But as a professor, I can take a little more objective stance and look at the complexity and wonder whether that's really for the benefit of the country. Politically, it's become a hot issue for at least 20 years now. Republicans have running on an anti-tax platform, and we're seeing that a little bit now. Steve Forbes again running on a flat tax plan. Bob Dole tried to talk us into a broad-based 15% tax cut. The Republicans now are running again on another 10% flat, broad-based tax cut. We'll see whether that has any popular appeal as well. Let me at least tell our viewers that your book is called The Failure of the U.S. Tax Policy. As you take a look at revenue and politics, it's in paperback. Is the answer to that it is a failure? Do you think it Well, one way it's not a failure. It clearly isn't with respect to raising revenue. In 1998, the income tax raised for the first time ever $1 trillion. 56% of our revenue for the federal government, even more than that in 1998, comes from the federal income tax. So with respect to raising revenue, it's not a failure. I think it's a failure with respect to us trying to do much too much politically through the tax code, even encouraging people with their children giving a $400 credit that you just mentioned. That's social policy. Attempts to make social and political policy through the tax code is what makes it so complicated. Excellent point. We thank you for joining us tonight as we try to reach for the Tums and deal with the April 15th deadline, but at the same time, you've given us something to think about. Thank you so much for stopping in. Thank you. Let's take a look at what's happening with our weather, because in case you didn't notice, the sun actually did manage to dominate part of our afternoon.